Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the ELMATT Podcast. Along with Elliot Sachs, this is Matt Lipson. We've got a whole bunch of things to talk about. We got the NBA, we got Major League Baseball. We always manage to find something to talk about when it comes to college basketball. We have the Rangers, we have the Jets, we have a whole bunch of stuff like that. Morning, Elliot. How are you today?
Good morning, Matt. Doing good. It's raining here in New Jersey, but looks like a nice weekend. And to all your mothers out there, happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to all your mothers. We got to start with a subject that I know throughout the year has been near and dear to Elliot's heart, and that's the National Basketball Association. And we have to talk about the New York Knicks, who went up to Boston this week to play the first two games and of their series, and they were down by 20 points in the first game in the third quarter. Managed to come back and win that game by 3 points in overtime. And just to show you, it wasn't a fluke. They were down by 20 points in the second game and came back to win that game by 1 point in regulation time. They take a 2-0 lead. I mean, obviously, everybody in Boston is shell shocked. First game, Boston couldn't hit a 3-point play if you put it 10 feet from the basket, let alone 30 feet from the basket. Second game, Nick defense came about, but 2-0 going into game three tomorrow afternoon at 3:30 Madison Square Garden. It'll be on ABC TV. Of course, Row will be filled with everybody. Uh, I don't know. I mean, first two games, all I heard from my son was how the Knicks were going to get beaten. And then during the game, you see what I mean? You see what I mean? And then the last thing he texted me after each game was, wow. And it was wow. I mean, it was unbelievable. If you don't watch the game tomorrow, tape the beginning of the game because the Garden is going to be literally like the Garden was in the 1970s and late 60s. They're going to blow the roof off this place.
So let me tell you everything I know about this. So right at the end of both games, I was getting all these text messages, and the text messages were basically Knicks! Exclamation! 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 So I happened to look at the ending of the first game, the Monday night game, and I saw where Michael Bridges totally shut down Boston's last attempt.
Yep.
There was no attempt because Michael Bridges basically stole the ball from the guy. And that was Monday night. And then Wednesday night, almost identically, Michael Bridges, he must be just a tremendous defensive player because almost exactly the same thing. Not only did he not did Boston get a shot off, they didn't even get the ball. He
Well,
took the ball away.
the Nets traded Michael Bridges to the Knicks last season. Before last season, the Knicks gave up 5 first-round draft choices. His 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 uh, his play during the season obviously was mediocre to okay. You know, some games he had real good games. The thing about Michael Bridges is he never misses a game. He's played in so many consecutive games, unbelievable, and he plays almost all the games. I mean, the overtime game, he played 51 minutes. He's a tremendous defensive ball player. Between him and OG Anunoby, they shut down the Celtics at the end of both games. You know, the 5 first-round draft picks was certainly worth it over the last two games. Now, the thing that I find amazing is that Boston coming in tomorrow to the Garden. They've lost two games. Christopher Porzingis, one of the big guys, but he's been a sideline with an upper respiratory ailment, which has only led him to play 27 minutes in the first two games. So that's helped the Knicks. Uh, they're still favored to win tomorrow, and they're still favored to win the series, even though they're down 2 games to none. So, obviously, if you look at coach speak, when you win the first game of a playoff game away, well, we took the first game, we got home court advantage, and then the next game becomes somewhat gravy. But that's not what happens here. The Celtics are that good. They can come back and win the next 4 games. Tomorrow's game at the Garden is the biggest game for the Knicks because the Knicks can go up 3 games to none. That gives them a lot better chance of closing it out. Although I promise you, they'll bring you back to 2004 when another New York team went up 3 games to nothing against Boston and ended up losing the last 4 games. But it's amazing. I mean,
Now that one I remember. That one I remember. Now the other thing too is after listening to you, the only thing I could say about Michael Bridges is he ever heard of something called load management?
No, he's a throwback. He's honestly he's a throwback to the old ball players. Plays every game. Amazingly, the Knicks are 5-0 on the road this year. They won 3 games in Detroit and winning that series in 6, and they won 2 games so far in the Garden and TD's Garden, the Boston Garden. So I don't know. Saturday, Monday, 3:30 Eastern tomorrow, 7:30 ESPN on Monday. Certainly, the Garden's going to be rocking. Last game, it wasn't Jalen Brunson putting on the Superman cape. It was Mikal Bridges in the fourth quarter scoring all his points. It was, everybody's playing. And the one thing now that they say the Knicks have going for them, and this will sort of take a step aside for a moment. We'll congratulate Robert Prevost for becoming Pope Leo the 14th, the first American-born Pope in history. And how can the Knicks possibly lose? Pope Leo went to Villanova, and the Knicks are all Villanova. So I think that was the last blessing the Knicks needed to go on. We all know that he's a big Chicago fan and everything. So we'll be looking forward to see if he puts a blessing on the Knicks. I doubt he will, but it would be interesting to see if he does if the Knicks do come back and win this series. The interesting part about this series is the Celtics were the second best team in the East this year. The Cleveland Cavaliers were the first best team in the East this year. And Cleveland got hit with injuries just before the playoffs. Donovan Mitchell's trying his best, but Cleveland plays tonight in Indianapolis. Indianapolis is holding a 2-0 lead. So it wouldn't be the first time it happened, but it's possible the top 2 seeds in the East could be dethroned by Monday night. And again, we're not going to, not going to try to put any kind of horrors, as they say, on the Knicks. They got to keep playing. The one thing that the first 2 games in Boston has done is, for some reason, every year we get to the playoffs, somebody wants to fire Tom Thibodeau. He plays his team too much. And I'll tell you something. And I always give credit to my son when he comes up with these things, because he's really a true student of basketball. The Cavaliers, as I said, they're down 2 games to none. Donovan Mitchell is averaging 37, 38 minutes a game throughout the season. Now, because of the guys being hurt, he's playing 42, 43 minutes, maybe even 44. And Adam says you can see the visible wear down on him when he's getting late in the game. He's wearing down because he's not used to playing that long. Whereas Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, all of these guys on the Knicks are used to playing strong minutes because Tom Thibodeau doesn't have a big rotation. 7, maybe 8 guys on his bench rotation. So the Knicks being in better shape, I'm not saying they are, but it's possible that they're not wearing down. Boston had a lot of games this year where they won by big scores. That brought the players out. So it could just be conditioning that's helping the Knicks down the stretch. Tired legs. If you look at some of the shots that Boston's missed, some of the 3-point shots, they've missed a lot of open 3-point shots. Now, you can argue, where's the Knicks defense that they're having all of these open shots, but they've missed them. And some of the misses you could almost attribute to tired legs, not jumping. You know about that when it comes to basketball.
Yeah. Too, the other thing too, like you said, I'm just thinking about this, is the Celtics haven't had a lot of close games.
Right.
That's a big deal, because just going back to college basketball, just watching Duke last year, they were just blowing through the ACC. And then when they got into the NCAA tournament, they were still blowing through those first few games as well. But when they got to the Final Four and they got into a close game, they didn't really have a lot of experience in being in that situation. And, there's something to be said for that. So we'll see what happens with the Celtics. But, I imagine the Knicks were in a lot of close games all year. So they kind of knew what to expect, or what would happen, or how it might go.
Let's give the Celtics their due. They are the defending NBA champions. So again, I mean, I go back a long time with the New York Knicks. I remember Willis Reed, dragging his leg out and everything. We've gone through the whole thing. It's been 52 years since the Knicks won a championship. It took 54 years for the Rangers to win a championship after winning in 1940. So maybe we're still 2 years away as a Knicks team. I don't know. But I will tell you one thing, if grit and determination is worth anything in a basketball game, the Knicks certainly have it. And we'll see what happens. But uh, like I said, I think tomorrow's game is the pivotal game. You certainly would rather be up 3-0 than up 2-1 because 2-1 gives them life. 3-0 really doesn't. But we'll see what happens. So good luck to the Knicks.
So one other thing about the Knicks, you got to take your hat off to them. You know, when a team is down by 20, no matter what, you know, a lot of teams will just pack it in and say, hey, you know, we'll come back next night. You know, hats off to them. They never, you know, quit. They kept going, and you know, they were rewarded for it. So,
when they
hats off to the
when they
Knicks.
went on Monday night. No, when they went on Wednesday night, you know, Adam texted me and I said, well, Bob Wenzel became Rutgers head coach 1987. And I said, and he wasn't Rutgers was
89,
89,
88, 88.
89. I said he wasn't Rutgers wasn't a big a deal, but his comment was dream big dreams. And I said, dream big
Yeah,
dreams, and you never know what happens. You play
yeah.
at the buzzer, and obviously the first two games they've played to the buzzer, uh, and everything that should have gone wrong at the end of games with the Knicks didn't go wrong. You know, the two steals at the end by Bridges. Like you said, Boston never got a shot off. Um, everything in regulation in the first game, Jalen Brunson had a gimme layup to win the game in regulation, and he blew it. I was like, oh, there we go. That's the end. And they still won. So like I said, it wouldn't surprise me if they lose by 20 tomorrow. But the joke that yeah, I heard Boomer and Gio. Well, let's start off the game in the third quarter. Knicks are down 20 and play it from there and see what happens. But no, that's not going to happen. That won't happen. All right, so we'll leave basketball for the moment. We'll turn our attention to Major League Baseball, and still, as we're in finishing up the first week of May, we still have two first place New York baseball teams. How about that?
Yeah, that's great. Good stuff. The Mets and the Yankees are both leading their Eastern divisions, not by much. They're both in close races, but you know, if you had your choice, you'd rather be in first, a game and a half ahead than in second. So
Rather be
yeah,
two
both
games
teams are playing. You know, they're playing well.
Yeah. Mets come home today. They have a 6-game home series. They'll play three against the first place Central Division Chicago Cubs. Then they'll play three against the last place Central Division Pittsburgh Pirates. Pittsburgh fired their manager, Derek Shelton, yesterday. They went 12 and 26. They're 10 games behind. They hired Don Kelly as the interim manager. This isn't fair. I don't care what anybody says. This guy, every so often you get a good guy in baseball, and Derek Shelton was a good guy in baseball, but I mean, he got screwed. Uh, the Pittsburgh ownership doesn't spend any money. And we were talking about this earlier, about Paul Skeens and O'Neill Cruz. And
O'Neill Cruz, yeah.
I mean, those guys,
Brian Reynolds.
I,
Brian Reynolds, they actually signed Brian Reynolds to a long-term deal, which was for the Pirates. That was amazing because they don't usually spend money, but they spent money on Brian Reynolds and O'Neill Cruz and Paul Skeens don't have the hammer yet.
I have a
And
question for you.
we'll see what happens when they get the hammer.
I have a question for you. Just off the top of your head, you could be off by 5 or 10 million. How much did the Mets pay Juan Soto to play baseball for them this year? And what was his contract?
So he's making 52 million a year,
Total contract was what, 760 million, right? The the
780, I think it was 785.
the Mets gave Peter Alonso 52 million for 2 years, 54 million for 2 years. This past offseason,
Yeah.
the Pittsburgh Pirates spent $20 million in free agency. The year before that, they spent 34 million. The year before that, they spent 34 million. The year before that, they spent 16 million. And the year before that, they spent 5 million. They spent like $111 million. That's like 1/10 of Anthony Santander's deal. I mean, give me a break.
The, the total, talking about the entire Pittsburgh Pirates estimated payroll for the entire team for 2025 is $88 million. That's the whole team. Everybody. 88 million.
Paul
By
Skeens.
contrast, the by contrast, the Dodgers, their payroll for 2025 is close to 400 million.
It's a disgrace, and I don't want to get too pirate centric because I want to talk about the Mets. I want to talk about the Yankees, but this is a telling statistic. This is disgraceful. Since the last time the Pittsburgh Pirates
It
postseason,
is.
2015, the Brewers have been to the playoffs 6 times, the Rays 5 times, the Twins 4 times, the A's, and the Padres have been there 3 times. The Marlins. Everybody tells how bad the Marlins are. Twice. The Reds, Mariners, and the Royals. What? It's a damn disgrace. I mean, I don't know what they can do, but it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible, and I don't know what else to say. But
Yeah.
finally, let's go back to our
It,
guy.
it's a big shame because and you've been there many times. Their stadium is beautiful.
Oh
The
yeah,
place is great. Yes, it's a football city. It's a football city, yes, but it's just a shame that they have such a beautiful stadium and the place is empty all the time because they just don't spend the money on players.
Clay Holmes pitches tonight against Jamison Tyone. Tyler McGill and Griffin Channing will pitch the other 2 games against the Cubs this weekend, and then on Monday night, the Mets will get to see the aforementioned Paul Skeens, as he'll be pitching on Monday night.
Yeah.
Yankees take to the road week. They'll be playing 3 games in Sacramento against the A's and 3 games in Seattle against the Mariners. They're in first place, 2 games up on the Red Sox. Will Warren goes tonight against Osvaldo Bido. No idea who that is. Carlos Rodon goes on Saturday against J.P. Sears, former Yankee. And as you told me before the game, I had it as a TBD, but Clark Schmidt will be pitching on Sunday, you said, against Luis Severino.
Yeah.
So, but the big deal.
Apparently the Yankees changed it. They got Clark Schmidt's going on Sunday, and then the bullpen game is going to be Tuesday in Seattle.
Okay, so
When you say bullpen game, when you see the starter is the starter is Ryan Yarbrough, that's a bullpen game.
right? Because he's going to go 3 innings, maybe tops. But he's been a good acquisition from the Rays, and that's what they got him for. Big news on the Yankees still remains Aaron Judge. His 32-game on base streak was stopped the other night against the Padres, and unfortunately, I hate to say it, but he slumped down to he's only batting 400 now. But he'll hope to start a new streak tonight.
Yeah, it looks like he's not going to finish the season at 400. If I were to bet, he's going to end up the season and definitely in the 300s and probably in the 320 to 330 area. But we'll see what happens. But the Yankees have 6 games out west, and then next Friday when you and I get together to talk, we'll be talking about the Subway Series, which starts a week from today.
His number. I mean, let's start off. He's batting 400. He's got a 1.241 OPS, a 249 OPS plus, which, from what I understand, normalizes a player's OPS in relationship to the league. So that means the Judge is hitting better than 149% better than the average player.
That's
Jake
right.
Clark talked about it on Tuesday in the Athletic, and he made the comment that he may be the best right-handed hitter in modern times, better even than Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, and Joe DiMaggio, at least statistically. Ready? Since 2022, Judge has put together the best asterisk-free 450-game stretch of any right-hand hitter in the last 100 years. 168 home runs and a 207 weighted runs created. Jeez, I mean, anyway, but I don't even think he's the biggest.
He's unbelievable. One thing too is you talked about how he slumped down to 400 his batting average. Also, his on base percentage went under 500. 500, that means you're on base 50% of the time. He went under 500. He's only on base now 491.
I think it's time
49% of the time he's on base.
we may have to trade the guy. But the big story, and we talked about this before we went back, is Trent Grisham. I mean, Trent Grisham is a tremendous outfielder.
Yeah.
Going this as well as last year. He's batting 292. He has 10 home runs and 101 at bats. Uh, I asked you what you thought the over-under was for him in home runs, and you said 20. And I think that's way low. I think this guy's going to have a banner year, and I think he's going to keep Jason Dominguez on the bench.
Yeah, so let's talk about Trent Grisham. His career to up until March 28th was known as a defensive replacement. That's the guy you put in center field in the eighth and ninth inning. Anything goes out towards the wall or towards the gaps, he'll go get that ball. All of a sudden, starting March 28th this season, he's become a hitter. Like you said, he's got 10 home runs, and you can't take him out of the lineup now because not only does he give you this Gold Glove defense, but now he's hitting. He's got 10 home runs, and he's batting 292. So now you got Cody Bellinger. What do you do with him? So you put him in left field. So now the odd man out is Jason Dominguez.
The big thing, and again, it helped I believe it helped Juan Soto last year. I really do. And it's helping Trent Grisham this year. Who bats behind Trent Grisham? Aaron Judge. So
Aaron Judge.
so you can't
Yeah.
fool around with Trent Grisham because he's a good base runner too. So if you walk him, you have a potential stolen base. Um, he's gotten selective in his hitting, so he's not swinging at bad pitches. And because you don't want to walk him, he's getting good pitches to hit, and he's hitting those good pitches. So as long as Aaron Judge keeps on hitting, which I don't see any, I mean, he's not going to bat 400 this year, but as long as as Aaron Judge can go 1 for 4 for the next 10 games and hit out of those 10 hits, hit 5 home runs, and nobody's going to complain. But his batting average is going to fall to 375. But that's okay too, you know. Uh, I think this is great, and the Yankee season this year, it keeps on looking like it has a chance to fall completely apart, and then it doesn't. The pitching problems. They DFA'd Carlos Carrasco. Nobody picked him up, so they out optioned him, outrighted him to Scranton, so he's available. Um, Max Fried versus Dylan Cease the other night. How about that? One has a no-hitter, one strikes out 8 guys. I mean, that's baseball, baby. That's great. And Padres have a problem because Dylan Cease and Michael King
That was a really
Dylan Cease and Michael King are
yeah,
both.
yeah.
You got to choose one thing. You can't go after both. You could lose both. I've heard somebody say that the Yankees
Right.
are going to be not stopped on getting Michael King back. That's the thing I've heard. Now, the only thing I hope is that's true. I hope it's Scott Boras isn't his.
Yeah, boy, that would be great. Could you imagine the Yankee starting pitching staff next year? Garrett Cole, Max Fried, and Michael King. That would be unbelievable.
And let's not take anything away from Carlos Rodon. He's pitched well the last few starts. So, the only thing they have to fix is they got to get their relief pitching back in order. Williams has pitched. I mean, they loaded the bases the other night, but then he struck out the side as well. So maybe he's coming back. Uh, I still don't think that was a bad trade getting him. Yeah, in retrospect, would Nestor Cortez be better than their fifth starter right now, Carlos Carrasco? Yeah, but you can't do that. And would the infielder they traded, would he be playing second base now? I don't know. But they've gotten some help from the minor leagues.
Just, just,
Yeah.
just for your guidance, Nestor Cortez is on the disabled list right now. So if he
Well,
was with the Yankees, he might be on the DL also. So
the Yankees promoted George Lombard Jr. to Somerset. He was promoted up. So
yeah, we're gonna actually see him. I'll see him on Wednesday. We're gonna go over to see the Patriots on Wednesday. So next Friday on our podcast, we'll have a scouting report on Lombard.
he's been very quietly penciled in, not this year probably, but next year as the Yankees third baseman. Now, I'll tell
Yeah, I
you,
noticed that they're starting to play him at third base. That obviously Volpe's the shortstop, so they're grooming him right now to be the third baseman and waiting.
yeah. When you look at the Yankee team right now, Judge, Dominguez, Volpe, Rice, Wells, Peraza, these guys. This is a Yankee grown team. Yeah, you got Goldschmidt and Bellinger and Stanton, but it's a Yankee and Grisham, but it's a Yankee grown team, and that's nice. That's really nice to see. Um, but
Out of the 40-man roster, 11 of the Yankees are homegrown.
all right, that's not
Yep.
that's not great, but
Yeah.
I'm,
Good.
and I get most of those home.
Not bad.
But look, if he keeps on hitting, they say he has a very mature attitude towards the game. Doesn't hurt that his father was a ball player, and things like that. So we'll see what happens there. But the Mets keep rolling along. Again, we talked about the Phillies winning three straight and climbing up the right behind them, a game and a half behind. Uh, I think you got to give credit to the pitching staff, the way they play. Griffin Channing. I mean, this guy came out of nowhere this year. He's pitching really well. Tyler McGill is finally pitching really, really well. Um, David Peterson gave up a bad home run the other night, but what are you going to do? And how about Clay Holmes? 4-1, 2.15 ERA.
Mm.
Jeremy Hefner's really
The only thing with Clay Holmes, I would caution you on Clay Holmes. Remember now, he hasn't pitched more than 80 innings in a year.
no, you're right. You're right. And you notice
So
just
he's
talk.
coming up. He's already up around 40. He's up around 40 innings right now. So
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. We
yeah,
just talked about the whole Met pitching staff. We didn't even mention Kodai Senga, who had a good game the other day. So,
yeah, yeah.
and as we said, Juan Soto is starting to hit a little bit. Lindor continues to hit. Peter Alonso is doing this year what, silly as it sounds, what he should have done last year. Last year was his contract year. He should have been having this year last year, and he would
Yeah.
have had $225 million contract. But probably not with the Mets though. So that's that's a good thing. He's playing well. I mean, they're getting it. Jeff McNeil came back and then he hurt his hamstring, so now he might be out for a little bit. So Brett Beatty is back, and you know, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But right,
Luis Angel Acuna's doing a nice job too. Over there at second base. So yeah, and the Mets, and also Tyrone Taylor's starting to hit now, so that's helped a lot too.
Acuna gives them the speed they need. He's the reason why they excuse me, why they sent Brett Beatty down and kept Acuna because of his what do you call it? His
Speed.
speed. Jesse Winkler's on the disabled list. That's why Beatty's gotten back up, and right now they're hanging in there. Again, I continue to talk and love the way Carlos Mendoza runs his team. Uh, when he loses a game, the real interesting thing about Mendoza, he takes ownership of it. It's like they played
Yeah,
better. When we lose a game, it's not necessarily
yeah,
our fault. So, but this is a big series. I mean, again, the Mets have been pretty good at home. The way the Phillies are playing right now, I know you
yeah,
mentioned earlier, just finished playing the Devil Rays, but the way the Phillies are playing right now, you got to take 2 out of 3 from the Cubs. This
yeah,
has to be a 5-1 homestand for the Mets, I would think.
yeah. The Mets have to keep the pedal down. The Phillies are in Cleveland, so they should do okay out there, and then they got the Cardinals at home. So out of the next 6 games, you figure the Phillies are going to go 4-2. So the Mets, like you said, they're at home now, and you got to go 4-2 or 5-1. You got to keep that lead.
So
So
pro football mini camps start this weekend, and the Jets mini camp starts 3-day rookie mini camp. It'll be our first look at head coach Aaron Glenn and see how he does. The number one draft choice was signed earlier this week, so we'll see. In past seasons, there's been a lot more physicality to the mini camps. This year, they say there'll be a lot more running and more agility type drills and a lot of classroom work. The one thing that you will see is you will see some of the wide receivers, rookie wide receivers, and free agents running down. So these are the things where if you're a rookie free agent or a draft choice, you want to make sure you catch every ball that's thrown to you and see how that works out. Nothing really exciting happened with the Giants this week. Nothing exciting happened with the Titans this week. Uh, Abdul Carter's still trying to figure out what number he's going to get. First, first LT told him he can't have 56, and then Phil Simms' family told him he can't have number 11. So right now, this guy's got to figure it out. But I'm sure he will figure it out before the season starts, and that'll be good. The Steelers made a trade the other day with the Cowboys.
Yeah, they got rid of a lot of luggage, a lot of baggage. They got rid of Pickens. So see that he's the Cowboys' problem now.
It's funny though when you talk to a Steelers fan, you get the like you say, thank God we don't need him. The drama wasn't worth the talent. And when you talk to the Cowboy fans, this is what Dak Prescott needed, another weapon with CC Lamb, and this is going to be so. It's going to be interesting to see how um, you know I don't think that Perkins really respected Russell Wilson and Justin Fields last year. I don't think he would have gotten along. I don't think he would have done all that nonsense with Ben Roethlisberger as quarterback, if you know what I mean. I think now with
And maybe
Dak
I,
Prescott,
the Steelers got Metcalf. I think that they kind of knew this was going to happen. They went out and got Metcalf from the Seahawks. So
and the one rumor I
I
heard,
don't think it was unexpected.
one rumor I heard of the Steeling camp is they're trying to talk to the Jets about getting Alan Lazard, which would mean that Aaron Rodgers is coming to Pittsburgh, but that's still way in the rumor stage. Right now, Steeler quarterback room is led by one Mason Rudolph, and he played well last for the Steelers. He actually played them into the playoffs the last time he played for them. So he's not going to be the quarterback, but it's nice to think about that. You
He
know,
won't be. Yeah. I can't believe they're still waiting for Aaron Rodgers. They should go out and get Kirk Cousins already or somebody,
that
get
was
somebody in
my
there.
next question to you. What's going on with Kirk Cousins in Atlanta? I mean, isn't it over the time period where he can be released or waived without the penalty to the salary cap? Are they just waiting? Did anybody attempt to contact the Falcons to try to trade? Did the Steelers say, "Listen, what do you want for him?"
I would imagine there's some kind of a discussion going on about maybe draft picks or some kind of a trade. I would think the Steelers have to be looking to make a trade there. And Kirk Cousins I would think is number one on their board right now. So we'll see.
Okay. Well, last thing I have, and oh no, two things I have. First of all, St. John's. We mentioned about St. John's, right? So that's good. Their
Yeah.
schedule. They're adding a lot of out of conference games, which is good for them. We'll see what happens. Uh, Anything new on the Rutgers side in terms of basketball or football, maybe?
Nothing new really. Yeah, football. No, really. It's kind of quiet right now. Uh, they did. Um, they did bring in a couple of recruits for on the basketball side. They got a shooter, supposedly a shooter from Bosnia coming in, and
Are
they got a portal, a couple portal guys.
they paying the guy from Bosnia in euros or in dollars?
I'm not sure, but supposedly he was being recruited by Villanova and some other high end schools. So yeah, it's hard to tell, how hard some of these other schools recruit him. I mean, when you hear Villanova, you think, hey, that's a good get. But I mean, the last time Rutgers really had a sharpshooter was Cam Spencer, so that was like 3 years ago now. So we'll see. Hopefully, he's like Cam Spencer and not some of the other sharpshooters like the ones they had last year were not really sharpshooters.
One other thing from college football, rumor has it that Bill Belichick's girlfriend has been banned from University of North Carolina football practices. So we'll have to
Oh,
see.
I didn't hear that one.
Yeah, and
Whoa,
apparently
that, that's big.
he also has hired a public relations firm to try in some way to set up his to better what's going on with him with everything after that interview. But yes, he's, the over under was zero basically, how many wins he would have in North Carolina, because they were all saying he was going to resign before the season started, but that apparently is not going to happen. So we'll look forward to that. We'll have more of a hopefully
Wow.
on that next week. Rangers hired a new head coach, Mike Sullivan, ends his 10-year time with the Pittsburgh Penguins, where he won two Stanley Cups. He was one of the two coaches in the National Hockey League who had been behind the bench for over 10 years. He joins the Rangers, a good friend of Chris Drury. They worked together on this Four Nations Cup that they had during the All-Star break this year. He's got a long-term relationship with Chris Drury. Chris Drury was a player when Mike Sullivan was the head coach, was an assistant coach with the Rangers, rather. He replaces Peter Laviolette, who replaced Gerard Gallant. Both of those had 2-year stints. And hopefully, this is going to be a long-term marriage between the Rangers and their head coach. Mike Sullivan is an excellent head coach, but now he goes from dealing with Sidney Crosby and those guys and Chris Katang and Malkin to dealing with Artemi Panarin and Chris Kreider and Zibanejad. So I think it's a good pick for the Rangers. We'll have to see what he brings to them. He's going to bring a calmness, I think, and that's something that's important. And we'll see if Chris Kreider actually remains with the team. He was offered for trades last year, but nobody wanted him. Worst offensive season he's had in forever. So we'll have to see if he can come back strong and maybe be rejuvenated by the new coach. Other than that, I've run out of things to talk
One,
about.
one, I got one last thing I thought was interesting before we go. And the ACC, in college basketball had a horrible year last year. And they're dropping from 20 to 18 league games. So what they've decided to do is they're going to play one or two teams twice, which is 4 games. They're going to play they're going to play 14 teams once, two teams twice, and they're going to have one team that they're not going to play at all. Each team in the ACC there's going to be one team they don't play at all during the season. And the reason they're doing this is because last year they only had 4 teams in the NCAA tournament. So they want to give their teams 2 more opportunities to play out of conference games. Like you were just saying with St. John beefing up, they're beefing up their out of conference schedule because they want to, they're going to be in the top 5 in the country, and they want to show everybody, they're playing in the Players Era Festival in Vegas, they're playing Mississippi, they're playing Kentucky. Their schedule is, they got 20 Big East games. So,
And
their schedule is going to be
Mississippi, Kentucky,
one where
Alabama.
if they win 22 or 23 games, yeah, Alabama, right? So, if they win 22 or 23 games, they're, easily 1, 2, 3 in the country, with that kind of schedule. But
And
anyway, the ACC is dropping league games so they can have more out of conference games to beef up their schedules.
let's call a spade a spade. First of all, there is no truth to the rumor that St. John's has made an application to be part of the SEC North. That's not true, even though they're playing all these other teams. But let's call it spade a spade. The more teams that your conference has in the conference, the more money your conference has. Only getting 4 out of 68 teams in the conference is not good. ACC is
Yeah.
supposed to be a power basketball conference, but when you stop and think about it, Duke, North Carolina, and then there's a drop, so that it's not good. So I can understand, especially when you get the SEC right next door. They get what, 12, 14 teams in, and you get 4 teams in. The Big East gets 5 teams in. The Big Ten gets 8 teams in.
Yeah.
No, it hurts with recruiting.
Exactly. Especially when the ACC, like you said, the ACC is like kind of alongside the ACC and the SEC. You got Kentucky and Louisville in Kentucky. There's places where you've got side by side teams in the same state. So
If you're recruiting,
that's
how if you're recruiting from Kentucky, look at our league. We bring more than half of our league into the SEC, into the NCAA tournament. if you can't counter that if you're on an ACC like Louisville or West or no, Louisville, Virginia, or
Yeah, Georgia Tech. Yep, Georgia is an SEC team. You got Georgia Tech. You got the same thing. You get side by side teams from these two leagues in the same state. It's not going to work.
no, it's not
Yeah,
going to work.
yeah.
But
So
it's interesting. So let's play more out of conference games so that we can win more games, and hopefully that's going to put more of our teams in. And now who they're going to play out of conference? They got to pick. They got to pick their right
well, I
spots.
would imagine. Oh, Duke. Yeah, well, Duke just picked up two out of now they got two more out of conference games, and Duke is going to play the top teams in the
Yeah,
country.
but
They'll play a game in the Garden like they do every year.
yeah. Anybody? Well, is there anybody in Duke this year that that's from the East Coast, that's from the North New York metropolitan area? Because that used to be Mike Krzyzewski's thing, playing the game in the
Yeah.
with the kid who was on his team from Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, someplace like that.
Well, he used to do that for the seniors, but there's no seniors anymore. These guys are, they get to their sophomore year and they're in the NBA. So
They're, they're all pros right now. I mean, actually, what you should see is you should see which player on Duke wants to pay Duke the most money to get Duke to play in the MS to play in the Garden. It's again, you can make jokes about this, but it's a shame.
yeah,
Hey, that's all I have before we go. Happy Mother's Day to everybody out there celebrating. For all you guys, make sure you're nice to your wives, your daughters, and everything like that, and of course to your mothers. And we'll see what happens. Yankees, Mets next week. It's become a thing now. Will they both still be in first place when we get back together again? We'll have to see. And more importantly, will the Knicks be continuing to play basketball when we come back next week? And what I mean by that is, will they have
yep,
finished the second round and be looking towards the third round?
yep. And what we're doing here is we're teasing next week, but I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we'll see you next week.
Take it easy,
Please
everybody.
come back for the exciting answers to those questions.
Bye bye.